Something is seriously off in Drake's camp right now. And no, this is not just about an album taking forever to drop. For months, Iceman was being teased like it was supposed to be this huge moment. The setup was there, the hints were there, the rollout was supposed to feel calculated. Like Drake was gearing up to make some kind of statement. But now, it does not look like a power move at all. It looks messy, it looks stalled, and honestly, it looks like the whole thing may have fallen apart behind the scenes. And here's where it gets even more interesting, because once the album drama started unraveling, it exposed something much uglier sitting underneath it. What started as people asking, "Where is the music?" has now turned into a much bigger conversation about Drake's fan base, the way his supporters move online, and the kind of culture that has grown around him over the last few years. So at this point, the real story may not even be Iceman itself. The real story might be what this whole situation is revealing about Drake and the people riding hardest for him. As of now, the biggest takeaway is pretty simple. Iceman seems to have been pushed back, and there is no real release date in sight. And that is not just people guessing anymore. There were already signs that something was off, but the latest updates made everything look a lot worse. The same insider source that had apparently been reliable on major music news this year, and had previously said Drake was getting ready to continue the rollout, later said those plans were scrapped. What was supposed to happen did not happen. Drake went quiet, and suddenly the project had no clear next move. Then the follow-up update made things sound even shakier. The album was said to be getting worked on again, with no word on the next episode and no word on when anything would actually be released. Another update claimed there had definitely been a delay, and that fans were supposed to get something just a few days earlier before that changed. And honestly, that says a lot, because when that gets added to everything else already floating around about this album, the picture starts looking very telling. DJ Academics had already mentioned Drake going through different versions and different ideas for Iceman. And if that is true, then this project is now being reworked again and again and again. That would mean Drake has spent more time reshaping this album than he has on any project before. Now, normally, when a huge artist keeps revising an album like that, people assume one thing. They are crafting something special. They are locked in. They are obsessing over details because they want the final product to be perfect. But that is not really how this is coming across. Instead of reading like perfectionism, it is starting to read like uncertainty. Instead of confidence, it feels like second-guessing. And that matters because Drake presented this rollout like everything was under control. Every teaser, every cryptic move, every breadcrumb, it all fed the idea that he had a strategy, that he knew exactly what he was doing. But when the album keeps shifting, disappearing, and getting delayed, that image starts to crack. And then there's the explanation people were given for why things got pushed back. There was this story going around that leaks had messed everything up. The idea was that material connected to Iceman got out, and that created problems serious enough to interfere with the release. But the problem is that explanation starts sounding weak the more people look at it closely. For one, it is hard to fully buy into the leak narrative when Academics himself previewed a big chunk of that material. For another, the songs that leaked were being described as unfinished, bland, and in some cases more like demos than actual completed records. And beyond that, there just did not seem to be enough leaked music to realistically blow up an entire album rollout, especially if the rumors are true that this project is supposed to be very long, maybe even a double-disc release. So when all of that gets put together, the leak excuse starts to feel less like the real reason and more like a cover story. And that is where things get awkward, because if the leaks are not the real issue, then what is? The answer a lot of people are landing on is not flattering at all. Maybe Drake simply does not feel confident enough in the album to release it. And let's be honest, that is what makes this whole thing embarrassing. Not just that the album is delayed, not just that the explanation is shaky, but that for all the build-up, all the teasing, all the suggestion that this was going to be some major moment, Drake now looks like somebody who is not fully standing behind his own project. And that alone would be enough to keep people talking. But then the conversation took an even darker turn. Because at the same time this rollout was collapsing, people also started focusing on the behavior coming from parts of Drake's stan culture. And suddenly the discussion was no longer just about music. It became about the kind of energy this whole situation was bringing out of people. That is really the full circle moment here. Drake delays the album. The explanation starts sounding less convincing. The fan base gets frustrated. Then the reactions get louder, more defensive, and more extreme. And from that point on, Iceman stops looking like just an album in trouble. It starts looking like another example of how unhealthy the environment around Drake has become. Because what people are seeing now is not just disappointment. It is denial. It is blame. It is anger being redirected in every direction except the obvious one. And that is why this whole thing feels so much bigger than a normal album delay. At this point, Iceman not having a release date is only one piece of the story. The leak excuse not adding up is another piece. Drake looking unsure of his own music is another piece. But the most revealing part may be the fact that this rollout has completely overlapped with some of the worst behavior coming out of his most intense supporters. That is what makes this feel like a real unraveling. Because if this is what the era looks like before the album even arrives, then the real collapse may not be the project itself. It may be everything around it.